Welcome everybody back. Simple Life Show. Today is September 16th, 2019. I did want to do a really quick video here about Joe Biden. Of course, he is a wonderful character to do a lot of different stories on because he's always forgetting things. He's kind of mixing things up. And we love making fun of Joe Biden. Of course, we love making fun of everybody, even Trump. We like making fun of Trump too. But Joe Biden, there has been some questions and some doubts about one of his recent stories that went back all the way to 1962. I didn't realize what this corn pop was, so I decided to look it up, do a little bit of research on it, and do a little video on it to kind of shed some light on it. Now, obviously, we know that Joe Biden is being made fun of a lot, predominantly because of his kind of touchy-feely way that he is around other people, making people feel kind of uncomfortable, you know, the whole creepy Joe type thing. However, back in 1962, he was supposedly a lifeguard in Wilmington, Delaware, where there was a gang problem back in 1962. Now, what his story was is that he was a gang, you know, he was the only white lifeguard at this community pool. And he wanted to do this job to kind of get to know the black population better, to understand black people more. Now, I will go ahead and play a clip for you on the internet here. This is what I originally watched, and I'll just let you kind of decide on what you think this means or not.
A lot, and I learned that it makes a difference. This was the diving board area. And I was one of the guards, and they weren't allowed to. There was a 3-meter board, and if you fell off sideways, you landed on the darn cement over there. And Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys. And I did. And back in those days, to show how things have changed, one of the things you had to use, if you used pomade in your hair, you had to wear a bathing cap. And so he was up on the board, wouldn't listen to me. I said, "Hey, Esther, you, off the board, or I'll come up and drag you off." Well, he came off, and he said, "I'll meet you outside." My car, these were all public housing behind it. My car, there was a gate out here. I parked my car outside the gate. And he said, "I'll be waiting for you." He was waiting for 3 guys in straight razors. Not a joke. There was a guy named Bill Wright, Mouse, the only white guy, and he did all the pools. He was the mechanic. And I said, "What am I going to do?" He said, "Come down here in the basement where mechanics, where all the pool filter is. You know the chain, there used to be a chain that went across the deep end. And he cut off a 6-foot length of chain. He folded up, he said, "You walk out with that chain. And you walk to the car and say, 'You may cut me, man, but I'm going to wrap this chain around your head.'" I said, "You kidding me?" He said, "No, if you don't come back." And he was right. So I walked out with the chain. And I walked up to my car, and they had, in those days, you used to remember the straight razor, you'd bang them on the curb, get them rusty, put them in a rain barrel, get them rusty. And I looked at him, but I was smart then. I said, first of all, I said, when I tell you to get off the board, you get off the board, and I'll kick you out again, but I shouldn't have called you Esther Williams. I apologize for that. I apologize, but I didn't know that apology was going to work. He said, "You apologize to me?" I said, "I apologize for that, not for throwing you out, but I apologize for what I said." He said, "Okay," closed the straight razor, and my heart began to beat again.
Okay, so basically, you can hear what Joe Biden here is saying. He's telling his idea of, or his recollection of what happened. Now, we can't really trust Joe Biden on really anything he says. We can't really trust any politician for that matter. Anything that Trump says is not the gospel truth. Trump says a lot of confusing things, and he's been known to lie about a lot of stuff too. I'm going to throw him under the bus just like anyone else. I'm all about the truth. I'm not all about one party or the other. I'm here to present facts and truth, and you make up your mind. You do your own research. However, when I was watching this, it reminded me a lot of how a lot of the Democrat politicians really pander to the black community or any minority for that, or any kind of ethnicity for that matter. They are looking for votes, and that's obvious. Now, why he decided to do this story and make this public is beyond my recollection. I mean, it's when you really listen to this, there's a lot of things that really kind of pops out. Number one, that back in 1962, there was plenty of black people around Wilmington, Delaware. And a lot of people, when they actually watched this clip and read this story about, what Joe Biden was talking about, a lot of it really didn't make any sense. Like, where did the the supposed gangs that just hang out at community pools, that sounds kind of strange to begin with. Number two is, where were the cops? Number three is, why did he have a huge black chain just laying around? Who uses a huge black chain in a pool? Maybe I haven't been to a pool in a while, but a lot of this doesn't make any sense. It sounds like maybe, he probably was a community lifeguard, but maybe he's just making this whole story up just so he can sound like, I don't even know what he's trying to sound like, because wrapping a chain around a black person's neck doesn't really conjure a lot of really good memories and doesn't really put him in a good light. I mean, what is he trying to say? What is Joe Biden really trying to say here? I mean, does he even really know what he's trying to say? It's so bizarre. And I wanted to kind of take a flashback here to Hillary Clinton, where she was kind of doing the same thing.
No more questions? He said no, she has to go.
What's something that you always carry with you?
Hot sauce.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you getting information right now?
Hot sauce.
Hot sauce in my bag, Swag?
Hot sauce.
Really?
Yes.
Now listen, I just want you to know, people are going to see this and say, okay, she's pandering to black people again.
So that's exactly what I'm talking about. It's the whole pandering to black people. It's pandering to any kind of ethnicity. Here more recently, we have something that I tried to look up and I couldn't really find it anymore. Remember when Kamala Harris started all of her pandering? Remember this?
I have.
Okay.
And I inhaled. I did inhale. It was a long time ago. But yes. I just broke news.
I mean, was it in college? See, I like stuff like that. That's a real hard answer. Was it another joint?
It was a joint.
Hey.
Yeah.
You remember the high?
I do.
What were you listening to when you was high? What was on? What song was it?
Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, definitely Snoop. Tupac for sure.
See, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, if anybody knows anything about rap and R&B, hip hop and all that stuff, you know that they weren't actually around at that time when Kamala Harris was smoking. We've all determined that it was just another lie from another Democrat trying to pander to black people. And, any kind of, black people are not stupid. They can see through this. People are not stupid. White people, black people, it doesn't really matter what color you are. All you have to do is research this stuff. You have to use your brain a little bit to see and to see through all the pandering that's going on right now from both parties. It's not just the Democrats, it's everyone. Trump likes to pander to the so-called, very conservative right, the religious, the so-called hillbillies and stuff like that. Of course, they have their own stereotypical type of blanket that we place on them, just as much as we have the stereotypical blanket that we place on the ethnic groups out there, not just black people, but all ethnicities. I guess Democrats think they're stupid or something because they keep trying this. They keep doing this over and over. And if you're familiar with The Root, and I'm sorry if this audio is a little bit off with some of these videos, so if it does sound a little bit off, I apologize about that. But if you know anything about The Root, excuse me, I had to cough. But if you know anything about The Root, they are probably one of the most anti-Trump publications out there, and they weren't even having it. One of the writers of The Root, Michael Harriet, took to Twitter a couple days ago, 2 days ago, and he went kind of on a tirade, a rant about what Joe Biden was doing and his own doubts about this story that he was weaving about this corn pop. I'll read some of it. It says here, thread, I'm always astounded by the imaginings of white people as it relates to race. Many of them have this fictionalized jigaboo version. Now, excuse me, there's a lot of explicitives in here, a lot of use of the N-words. I will not repeat it, but I just want to let you know. Many of them have this fictionalized jigaboo version that is almost alien-like, and one of the greatest examples of this is the Joe Biden story about the corn pop gangsta. He goes further by saying, now it's already been demonstrably proven that Biden will make stuff up. We see this, and I'm not quoting him anymore. We've seen this through a lot of different stories where Joe Biden has taken different types of stories, taken little facts out of them, and interweaved them into one type of fictitious type of story that he tells. And then when he's caught, then he just, he does what a typical politician will do, which is change the subject. But I digress. Now it's already been demonstrably proven that Biden will make stuff up, but any black person who hears this story would automatically give you the side eye and say, please. It begins with Biden was working as a lifeguard at a pool. Of course, we already discussed this. Now, Biden is like 176 years old, obviously, but he still is in pretty good shape. This supposedly happened in the summer of 1962. Biden says that instead of hanging out all summer, he decided to take a job working as a lifeguard at a black pool. So that summer, Biden was the only white lifeguard at the Price's Run swimming pool in Brown Burton Winchester Park. He says he did it, y'all, I swear this is true, in hopes of learning more about the black community. Yes, it's an actual quote. That means he said this. He wanted to learn more about the black community. Biden says that he became popular at the pool because many of the black people in Wilmington, Delaware, had never talked to a white person before. This raised my bullshit-o-meter, so I decided to look it up. In 1960, Wilmington was 73% white, according to the census record. So this is basically telling you that Biden is full of it. There were plenty of black people there. There was plenty of white people there, too. So, I mean, he's wrong on both accounts. I mean, Biden acts like he's never been around a black person, and he says that black people have never been around white people. That just doesn't make any sense. Biden is never making any sense further. Anyway, during Biden's Negro Summer Safari adventure, not my words, of course I am reading, one day, all of the town's gangsters came to the pool. Now, I know what you're thinking, but don't stereotype. Gangbangers are not a monolith. Furthermore, why can't a real street inn enjoy a nice, refreshing dip? Sometimes a thug wants to play Marco Polo too. Well, the gang that invaded Biden's pool was called the Romans, which did exist. There was a gang called the Romans, which sounds gangster as F. And the leader of the Romans was a dude named Corn Pop. Now, if you're black, I know this shit sounds like some white kid tried to make a gang fairy tale for a 6th grade play, because you and I know there ain't no squad led by an N named Corn Pop going around terrorizing Delaware pools. I mean, you got to really think about it. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. I mean, to have a gang leader called Corn Pop is really weird to begin with. Now, there could have been some guy named Corn Pop. But I mean, this whole narrative just sounds really contrived, really forced. It doesn't really make sense. It just doesn't fit. And we can't really trust Biden on his word on really anything he says when it comes to a story. But I guess in white people's minds, thugs get 2 weeks vacation and go on retreats to city pools. Anyway, Biden said he had no idea that Corn Pop was a duly elected leader of the hood ends. But when Corn Pop began bouncing on the diving board, which was against the rule, now he did call him Esther Williams, which his name was not Esther Williams. He was referring to a famous swimmer back in the 50s. Esther Williams, get off the board, man. When Biden kicked Corn Pop out of the pool, if you know if you're thinking who the F is Esther Williams, she was a famous swimmer in the 50s, but I admit I thought he was talking about the lady who played Florida Evans 2. Anyway, after he kicked the probably fictitious corn pop out of the pool, everybody was like, you done effed up, right? They told Biden that corn pop carried a straight razor and was going to be waiting for him when he got off work. Now, you and I both know that if this was true, Biden would have just called the cops to walk out to his car. We both know this is true. If he was the only white guy there, and if he was just trying to understand the black community, and gangs were such a big thing at community pools, then then there was probably some sort of cop nearby, but not according to Biden. According to Biden, he just went straight up Full Metal Jacket on the guy and wrapped up a whole bunch of chains and threatened him, and then they apparently became best friends. That's not how things happen in the real world, but this is Biden's world, of course. But this is 1962, before 911, when you had to dial a whole 7 numbers. Plus, Biden said that he knew that if he called the cops, he wouldn't be allowed back into the African-American community. This makes no sense. It's also pretty insulting because what is he, some sort of African jungle safari where if he does the wrong thing, then, he won't be allowed back into the community of, where I'm going with this. It just really, it's so bad in so many ways. Anyway, Biden says instead of he wrapped a 6-foot metal chain around his arm and wrapped that in the towel because everyone knows there are ample black chains just laying around the African-American community, but no police officers, of course. When he went out of the corn pop was indeed waiting for him, but Biden went Clint Eastwood on corn, told OG Pop from the Romans, "You might cut me, corn pop, but I'm going to wrap this chain around your head before you do." Again, that's a direct quote. We just heard it. And guess what? Just like that, Corn Pop put down the straight razor, and he and Biden became friends from that day on. This is just really dumb. This is really dumb. I don't know why Biden's doing this, and I can't believe that Biden is actually the front runner. It seems like every time there's an election, there's so much pandering going on. There's so much inauthenticity going on. People don't want this anymore. Now, there might be some people that might buy into this kind of stuff, but the numbers are dwindling. I don't care where you're from, what color you are, what kind of education you've had. This stuff has got to go. This stuff is just so insulting to everyone's intelligence that it's just beyond the pale at this point. So, what do you think? Do you think this is a legitimate story? Do you think there's some doubts here? Join me at simpleliferemedy.org. I'll be writing about this probably later today. Maybe not. I might just go on to something else. But until next time, stay safe out there, everybody. Have a good day. Bye.